Where tradition never dies. This is your radio, Cayman.
Oh, I think they're doing a great job. A lot of them are.
Good afternoon, Dwayne. How are you?
Not too bad, sir.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Radio Cayman's Talk Today with Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
But I do have some questions.
there are more questions than answers.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today. If you're ready to talk, we're willing to listen.
Well, I really enjoy this program today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
May God bless every person.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Thank you so much for joining us here on this fantastic Friday's edition of Talk Today as we invite you to be a part of our conversation. We'll be talking about population growth and development and some other stuff as well. Ooh, so stay tuned for Talk Today.
Radio Cayman's Talk Today, the Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. We ask our listeners to avoid statements or comments which are abusive, derogatory, malicious, or defamatory. Do not use any indecent language or make any statement which is false or misleading. Email talktoday at candw.ky or call 1-800-534-8255. Courtesy of Flow.
Cayman's #1 network that connects you to your world like never before.
Let your voice be heard. Once again, here's your host, Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome, Mike. And as we invite you to share your thoughts with us, 949-8037 or 949-6990. Likewise, you can call toll-free with the kind compliments of Flow at 1-800-534-8255. And I even have the WhatsApp phone handy, 925-3261. For those of you that like to use the other channels, well, that's how to say membership has its privileges. So use them as you wish. To the rest, welcome and a good afternoon and a special hello to Mr. Rich Dyer for joining us. A pleasure, man. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, Sterling. Good to be back. How are you?
Excellent, man. I'm glad that we got the doorway widened so that your big brain could walk through the door and now we can
I know, I do appreciate it. I had to walk sideways last time.
Yeah.
That was much easier this time.
So
around.
we're about inclusion and accommodation.
Exactly. You are very inclusive and accommodating, Sterling.
Yeah. And I say that with the greatest respect because I think, if you'd allow me, I think too many times we don't appreciate I don't want just to say the intellect, the experience, the expertise, the resource that we have within our shores, whether they go back generations, whether they've come here for a short time. But where, like you, they're just such an incredible part of the fabric of our society. And they can contribute, they can comment, they can add great value. And if we start to have this sort of level of discourse, it's meaningful. So thanks for the courage.
I mainly come here for the introduction and how much you compliment me at the start. That's my main attraction to coming here. I never get spoken to like that usually, so thank you.
Don't worry, man. You keep paying me the money, I keep saying the good things.
We don't tell them that.
Oops, sorry. But thank you equally for bringing it along. And would you like to say, or shall I?
You go ahead. Right. Go on. You're the formal one.
I'm the formal one. Well, I'll ask her to formally share some stuff with us, but can I say your wonderful sister?
Of course, my wonderful sister, yes.
So you think that Rich is smart, eloquent, and informed. Well, this lady was who Einstein took his counsel from.
Exactly.
So, Ms. Sarah Dyer, it's a pleasure to meet you. Welcome.
It is lovely to meet you too. Thank you very much for having me.
All right. And as we get into it, if you will allow me sometimes to maybe ask certain things, and I was thinking along the lines of education, not just hopefully as our discussion unfolds, it'll be about information sharing, education, about empowerment. The idea that people will start to ask questions, seek answers, perhaps offer some solutions. But if you don't have an opportunity to ask a question, to a desire that question should be answered in a certain way, and then the willingness, not just the propensity, but that willingness to, wait a minute, you said this, but is that really how it is? Or could it be? And I'll come to that from the education perspective. You see where I'm going, but would you be so mindful as to maybe share with our listeners as much as you wish, as little as you want, about you?
Well, I'm currently the IB coordinator at Cayman International School. I've been in Cayman for 7 years now. loving pretty much every minute of it.
There's a song, loving every minute of it. Sorry.
I'm the musician, come on.
Hey, I'm the host.
Let's not get confused in roles, Sterling.
Sorry, Mr. We're going to get back on track. So IB Cornish, yes.
Yeah, I also am the president of the board for the Cayman Youth Orchestra, and helped to found that quite recently, so that's something that we're very excited about. Work with the Humane Society, and generally just love the fact that I can once again live 10 minutes down the road from my little brother, but do so in paradise, which always a bonus.
You know,
that's just so sweet.
This is different this week. I've got nice people on both sides.
It's a rarity, no?
It is. I'm not leaving. Lock that door.
Yeah. But and as I hope that people, and I do understand that every day in paradise for us, there are challenges, because there's an expectation. That, what do you mean? You didn't go fishing today? You're not wearing, your grass skirt under your tiki hat?
Those weekend days when it starts raining are the best. Because then you can lie on that sofa guilt-free. Like, I couldn't go outside anyway.
I think it's going to rain. Let me just stay inside just in case it does. Right? But there are a lot of challenges, and I think I don't know whether I call it a country, but I've taken to call it a jurisdiction. Somewhere like Cayman, where you're expected as a government to provide all of these things that larger metropolitan areas have, from the policing to the social services to all these things. But yet there are limitations, as there are there. But you have the population, the size, the actual share size of the policed area, as it were. Then how do you balance that? And I think our statistical analysis may inform us, Mr. Rich. What do you think?
Gosh, that was sorry. I need a wider question to start with.
Okay, no. All right. So what? I have a wider question, but what would be the wider question that you would want?
Well, so last time I was here, right, we were talking about the chicken elections that we did with massive media, and what we found was that we had some interesting views on the demographics and the differences between whether it's nationality or age and gender. And then I think what we then discussed, what we need to talk about was, okay, so what do those demographics mean in practice, and what does it look like for the future? What are the implications? And I think to what you said at the beginning about where to encourage people to ask questions, but you need to provide people with actual information. And so kind of to prepare for this, we looked through the statistics that we'd done in that research study, and then we went elsewhere and we looked at what was available from the Economics and Statistics Office, what was in the census, what was in the news media, what was available on international statistics sites. And we looked through into other trends and information out there, and then we looked at what things were predicted for future trends. And again, there was just really interesting, sometimes counterintuitive information in there. So I guess we'll just run through this a lot. But there was one thing, for example, that immediately jumped out when we were looking at population growth, right? So when we were looking at the overall picture of Cayman, you want to start at the overall aggregate of the population. And so what we found was that from 1999 to 2010, for example, the population grew 40%. And that was during Hurricane Ivan, of course, happened, which had a drag and a reduction effect on the population during that period. And so now we think the population is growing faster and faster, and that's what the kind of intuitive feeling is. But from 2010 to 2018, so only a year shorter, 2 years shorter in the same period, it only grew 20%. So in the last 10 years, the population has grown 20%, and the rate of growth in the 10 years prior was doubly as fast. It grew 40%. So actually the rate of growth has been slowing. But if you were to speak to anyone, that wouldn't be the immediate intuitive perception. And it even stagnated, I think we saw in 2013, actually dipped down for a year, right? And then there's been 14% growth in the last 5 years. And so I was just to that point you said about providing information, when we actually start looking at it. And then the implications for what does that do for employment effects? What does that do for Caymanian employment? And then now another counterintuitive thing we found was that as population grows, as work permits go up, Caymanian employment increases. The unemployment rate drops. So the increase in work permits actually correlates with the decrease in Caymanian employment, which again is counterintuitive to what we see in the general rhetoric around that subject, right? We import too many people, we reduce the number of jobs for Caymanians. But what actually it shows is that more work permits equals a more vibrant economy, equals more demand, equals more jobs. And so an increase in work permits reduces Caymanian unemployment. And so it's what you said. We've been through a lot of things, and there's some immediate things jumped out at us which were fascinating. And you're like, it's counterintuitive, right? When you pause and thoughtful, you can actually, these things can make sense, but that's not often what we do, we just react rather than think too often. And I think that's what these kind of discussions are good for, is to just be thoughtful and logical for a bit before we carry on reacting.
It's easier to be emotive and that knee-jerk reaction, but how do we look at it as informed this perspective? Miss Sarah, your initial,
Well, similar to Rich, I thought it was quite interesting, and some of the information was, like you said, counterintuitive, but I understand why the rhetoric is slightly different, because a lot of people are so emotionally invested. It's it's their home, it's their country, and particularly with it being such a small community, I think there is a stronger attachment than if we were in, say, London or a massive city with millions of people. People have such a personal connection to their Cayman. Even just after 7 years, there are elements where I already feel so attached and protective of elements of the country and the culture. I understand why this knee-jerk reaction happens and why people do get so passionate and so upset about it. But I think it's really important to take a step back, to look at the information that's available and to try and have a calm, more objective discussion about the practical implications, concerns and responses.
It also, anecdotal evidence is more persuasive in a community like this, right? So if you're in a population of 50 million people, when you hear an anecdote about Joe down the street, it's a lot less meaningful than Joe down the street here. That's a much higher percentage of the population. So an anecdote is a lot more common and a lot more realistic, a lot more persuasive than in larger countries where that can just be an anomaly and you can ignore it. Where here, actually, a few anecdotes starts to make up a bit of a meaningful sample of something. So again, I think that also plays into that when we're emotive and reactive, and we're also attached to our smaller community, and then the force of anecdotes, of stories, are more influential and often more meaningful than they would be in large populations.
So oftentimes the perception helps to inform the reality, and then that becomes the
right.
And I'm glad of your approach. I tried to do something similar, and I was asking, in our analysis, is there a way that we could look, beyond that, so that the social and the emotional reactions, which translate into sometimes public policy, into things that the society thinks and does, and then potentially the divide that could come because, there are too many, and then we attach some label to it, the frustrations on the roads. And I think this is where some of us don't understand that the statistical analysis can help us to understand the emotive outcomes.
Yeah, and I think even when people, it's a difficult statement in a way to make, because if somebody is upset because they say, too many work permits means, the Caymanians aren't getting a job, or I'm not getting a job, right? There's still some truth in there, right? So even though it's not statistically true, that more work permits do mean, we can see statistically, means a lower unemployment rate for Caymanians. But the sentiment of what's being said there, of the Caymanian being underemployed, or of that individual not having a job, that is still a truth, right? And so the actual motivation for that emotion is true. It's just the interpretation of the statistics, and then you can argue about which part of that is relevant, right? And meaningfully, at the end of the day, if this person's unemployed, that's the issue,
that's the
right?
reality.
So throwing statistics at them, saying, well, actually, if you look at the analysis, that doesn't help that individual in that situation. So we can't also just get bogged down in just looking at statistics. There is the human element, right? And that's what's so good about statistical analysis. You can't just be an accountant and just see numbers and figures. You also have to introduce the actual humanity of what these statistics say, because we are studying effectively humanity within the statistics we're looking at here with population.
Well, that's where economists come in.
Right.
All right, let's pause and take our first break. When we come back, let's see where we can go. The phone lines are open. We're happy for you to listen, or even more ecstatic if you're willing to join. Hey, you don't have to be, as smart as our guests, but you just got to be as gracious as our host. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Parents, do you know what time it is?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
But it's not Christmas time. But school is nearly back in session. Is your child ready for the school year? Stop by Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village and pick up all of your child's stationery supplies. With 30% off selected items, you won't need to break the bank to get your little one prepared for the school year. You have enough to worry about. Make back to school a breeze with Savannah Pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
Hey, Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's eye exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Get half off a complete pair of glasses with any student's eye exam now until August 31st. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook, located in Caymanian Village.
Terms and conditions apply.
Sometimes things just don't go as planned. That's why you need Contractors All-Risk Insurance from Fidelity Insurance Brokers. Ensure you're covered in the event of property damage and third-party injury or damage claims during your construction projects. And with Fidelity Insurance Brokers, you can be sure you are getting competitive pricing and superior customer service. Call us today for a free quote. Fidelity, we're good for you.
The Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee is inviting you to our pageant on 17th August, 7 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton. The committee continues to empower young Caymanian ladies to become role models in the community. So come out and see our 6 beautiful contestants vie for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will represent us at the Miss Universe pageant. Get your tickets today at Funky Tangs and Sand Angels.
Tune in to Radio Cayman every morning at 7:20 a.m. for your daily weather update. Proudly brought to you by Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. With over 47 years of experience, they'll get the job done for you on time. Free estimate. Miller's Plumbing and Accessories. Call them at 949-4709 for a free estimate.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. And it's certainly always our endeavor to inform and involve you. And if it means that you laugh at my expense, hey, if it puts a smile on your face, that's fine. If we can entertain you, so be it. Very grateful for all of our guests, and today for Rich Dyer and Sarah Dyer to join us. The notion of looking at statistics for some, they don't get as excited as some of us. Let's put it that way.
It's weird, isn't it?
but it's beautiful what a number can be, and what it can signify. And I was just thinking, earlier they talked about, music and education, and we see it, whether it's the drum and that beat, whether it's 4/4. I'm not a musician, as Rich reminded me, but I won't take offense.
No, of course, it's important to be clear.
but the math and sometimes even the numbers that come into music, like it would be in any analysis at times. Now, when we were talking just prior to the break, the idea of unemployment or employment or underemployment, for some of us, it only matters because they have a job or they're not making enough or they don't have a job. We don't care what it was, or do we? Should we? How? Rich, take us there.
Well, I mean, the short answer is, yeah, obviously we should care, and that's, when the reason you study unemployment and employment is to help those unemployed and underemployed, right? We don't necessarily study these things to help those doing well in their careers. And so any time you have anybody unemployed, right, that's unideal for the individual, and it's unideal theoretically for the economy, and it's something that's what we want to address. So saying that, right, when you look at it statistically, that's the wider point of view. And there is general concern about unemployment in Cayman today, right? Mm-hmm. But if you look at it statistically, Cayman is in an incredible position in terms of the unemployment rate and employment rate, just looking at that. So we're not addressing underemployment, right, which is a separate issue, but just looking strictly at employment rate. So if you look back between 1995 and 2018, Cayman Islands averaged 4.75% unemployment rate. In 2001, it peaked at 7.5%, right? Right now, the unemployment rate is, and Sarah jumped to a stat that I've lost, is it 2.8?
2.8% according to the full 2018 labour force survey.
Right, so we're now at 2.8%, which is incredibly low relating to the average since 1995. Also, in the United States, the Federal Reserve considers the full employment figure to be around between 5 and 5.2%. So we're dramatically beneath, even where in a standardized economy you anticipate 5% is basically as good as an economy is going to get, right?
Mhm.
Between, you've got structural unemployment, you've got people moving between jobs, you've got various reasons for why people will be unemployed at times in their lives.
Mhm.
And so statistically 5% is what we consider to be the economy really humming and employed. And here we're running around to 2.8%. Right, so in terms of when you're managing an economy, and why we look at these statistics and who we turn to is, government policy. We look at private enterprise and what we expect of them, but these are influenced by our public policy and by government and how we legislate. And so if you're looking to the government now to what do they do meaningfully to decrease unemployment rates, that's a very taxing question, right? Because you already have statistically an incredibly low unemployment rate, right? The concept of underemployment and to do with social security, to do with long-term viability, to do with disposable income, to do with pricing, right? This is the most expensive place in the world. Those are other things that it might be more practical or more impactful for us to look at addressing. In order to, if I was a legislator, if I was looking at an unemployment rate of 2.8% and the challenge was get the unemployment rate down, you'd be like, I have statistically done something incredible here, or statistically we are an incredible state. So it's a very difficult question of our legislators and of our government to pose to them and to blame at them for what is an incredible economy and incredible state.
Right. Now, with that, if you want to jump in, we would still see that perhaps, let's say, last 10 years, and it may be a little bit more, it might be quite as long. Prior to that, the discussion of employment as a political issue, as a social issue, wasn't one that was significantly batted about. Okay. Now we hear it more. Statistically, if we're 5% or less, we're under 3%. Couple of things. There was a term we used to hear sometime back, full employment, right? And then we heard about overemployment. Go back to that, and then to the notion that people looking at it but we got people over here who are unemployed, not just underemployed, and maybe we'll define that just for clarity. But not just who are unemployed. And then we have 50,000 work permits, 20,000, whatever that number is, right? And I just say it to perk some people's ears and irritate some others, just for fun. Right?
Great.
It's a Friday, Monday's a holiday.
The phone lines are lighting up, Sterling.
I just got an email. Can you see me in my office after the show, please? And one would say, well, how can that be? You have this number of people, whether they're in the public sector and not subject to a work permit, but would, had they been in the private sector, then there are those in the private sector. So all these people who are subject to immigration controls, permitting issues. And then you have this section who are not working, unemployed. And we see, despite the correlation between increased work permits and increased employment. Now, the issue of overemployment and full employment, and relative to where we are to the benchmark of being, wow, the economy is humming along, because you don't have really any employment issue. How do we get the public, the policymakers, the politician, and the parent who is saying, get a job?
I think, so I guess if the question is how do we address the perception, I think kind of to follow on what I said before is what we need to address is not to do with the unemployment rate, right? That is not the aggregate issue that we deal with. What we need to look at is cost of living, right? Is the distribution of wages, right? Is what proportion of people are living below the poverty line, or what proportion of people cannot afford the cost of living to lead what we would consider a reasonable lifestyle, right?
Okay.
What do we do about, Meals on Wheels, for example? They know that in West Bay alone, right, there's over 80 individuals on their waiting list, waiting to be added to Meals on Wheels, right? How do we have this economy? How do we have this low unemployment rate, this incredible growth of the economy, government running a surplus budget, which is brilliant, but how do we have all of these amazing positive economic factors for what is really a miraculous economic condition? Why do we have 80 people in West Bay alone of elderly people who can't eat or are waiting to get on the Meals on Wheels program? Okay. Right. So I think those are the issues which we should focus on, right? And that's what makes people. That's what solves the kind of the real issues that people go through when they cannot afford to live, right? Okay. It's the wages and the cost of living, the social security, right? How do we look after elderly? The mental health centre, they're only just starting to build the mental health centre. I saw that. They're finally going to start breaking ground on that. That was approved by Cabinet, I think, 3 years ago. They've only just started building, right? Why don't we have a mental health care facility here in Cayman Islands, right? Why are people going to Jamaica, or less frequently they go to the United States, right, for treatment? Right? These are the societal issues that we should be addressing now with this wonderful economy.
Right.
You address those things, that's how we raise everybody up, and that's where the stress that people throw at the work permit number or the unemployment rate, where you look statistically, no, they're not the issues. It's you solve the issues which make people upset.
But they're the things that people understand.
Right.
And that's why people fall back on work permits or unemployment, because they can understand those.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to then look at disparity in income, it's a much more complex issue. And when we were preparing for this, it was one of the things that we both agreed on, the disparities, whether you're looking at tensions between locals and expats, or whether you're looking at disparity between rich and poor. As the economy grows, if we don't get a handle on this now, those are going to become massive issues.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you are working every day, you work 6 days a week in a minimum wage job, and you see someone who is an expat who's come over here and is pulling in 6, 7, 8 times what you earn, of course that's going to be resentment. And particularly with the cost of living being so high, there are a lot of people who work very, very hard and do jobs that we need them to do, but they're just not making enough to survive in the current economy. And so for them, economic growth isn't as exciting as it is for somebody who's going to be able to take advantage of that.
Okay. So how do we address that? Because there were a number of things I was trying to understand, and certainly want those listening, but certainly welcome and invite them to contribute. If I'm looking at this correctly and making some assumptions and even potential projections, we could see a divide in our community along the lines of not just what traditionally was religion, ethnicity, and this, but about income and education, the haves and have-nots that were talked about from time immemorial. Now, Mr. Fox reminds me of a break. When I come back, I want to ask about that. And this disparity that we may see between Caymanians and non-Caymanians. But even maybe that exists between the non-Caymanians who are in work permits. The perception that there's this group of people who, because of their jobs or their ethnicity or whatever, they live, fifth to a house. But maybe there's still some others who are in the financial sector who live in 5 to a house. The difference is that they're on 7 Mile Beach in order to afford it. These others are somewhere in West Bay or Bordentown. Different? Similar? Are the implications? Let's talk about that. All right. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Excuse me. I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory-breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger-licking good.
The Cayman Islands Seafarers Association wishes to inform all members that there will be a general meeting on Tuesday, August 20th at 7:30 p.m. in the Seafarers Hall, 11 Victory Avenue, Prospect. There will be 3 buses from West Bay Town Hall, which leaves at 6 p.m. The Barnes bus route in Georgetown leaves the public library parking area at 6:45 p.m., stopping at the Cayman Compass Building and the Airport Fosters. The bus, marked Bobo $1 public transport and is blue in color, picks up from British Caymanian, Uncle Bill's, Walker's Road, Shedden Road, and Crew Road. The bus from East End pickups are the school parking lot, the gas station, and Wreck of the 10 Sails, starting at 5:45. Northside pickups are at Chisholm Store and the soccer field, starting at 6:15. The Boddentown pickup is at Lorna's gas station at 6:45 and the Savannah pickups at gas station at 7 p.m.
I'm back!
The best back-to-school sale is now at Reflections. Buy one, get one half price on all back-to-school shoes. Over 100 styles of your favorite brands. Nike, Adidas, Puma, Reebok, and more. Back-to-school savings on shoes for toddlers, children, teens, and adults. Buy one pair, get the second pair half price. Or buy one pair of shoes and get a backpack half priced. The best back-to-school sale at Reflections. Now located on Shedden Road, across from Napa Auto Parts, beside Mango Tree. Reflections.
At Seaboard Marine, customers often ask us questions about their shipments.
I have various items coming from different suppliers that I need to ship to Cayman. Do you offer consolidation?
Yes. Seaboard Marine offers consolidation for full and less than container loads. We can hold your packages at our Miami warehouse until everything arrives and ship it all in one go. And we have the best rates to Grand Cayman. Visit seaboardmarine.com for more information.
Shipping shore to shore, Seaboard.
Hi, I am 23-year-old Francine Wright, contestant number 5, representing the beautiful and vibrant district of Georgetown. I am a huge foodie that loves to travel, meet people from different cultures, and try new foods. I'm very family-oriented, with my idea of a good time being at the beach or around the pool with the ones I love. I'm passionate about community service and helping those around me. I hope to see you all on the night one of us is crowned the new Miss Cayman Islands Universe 2019. Be there on Saturday, the 17th of August at the Ritz-Carlton.
Radio Cayman's Super Jam Show, the #1 drive time entertainment show on your radio, featuring Will Sinatra. Enjoy a mix of pop, hip-hop, dancehall, and soca, and an entertainment trivia section.
Another proud sponsor of the Super Jam Show.
Merengue Town.
Time to feel the rhythm. Time to feel the vibes. It's time for Merengue Town.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waging to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us. And as we continue our discussion, talking about population growth, development, and the like, we have the good, wonderful, excellent company of Miss Sarah Dyer with her protector, as all brothers are for their sisters, Rich Dyer. And we do have a caller online, I'm told. Either that or this is my lunch order. Let me check to make sure. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Brother Sterling.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Good. Oh, not too bad for an old man.
Well, you know, being old and still being active is a good sign, sir.
Yeah, that age gives you a bit of experience, and that's what I would like to share with your panel.
Yes, sir.
Because, you know, generally, like when Caymanians went to sea and there was an opening coming up for a job, of course you're going to recommend somebody from back home in an effort to help their fellow man, fellow countrymen get a job. Now, the one this is still going on a great deal in Cayman, whether Jamaican or Filipino or Canadian or Honduran or American, there's a good job coming up and they want to get some of their countrymen down. Now, if there's somebody who's in a top position in government, they may put on their in the newspaper for advertisement for a job in a way that it comes down to nobody's really going to much apply. You know? Like you got a job for a clerk in a shop, you know, but you need 2 master's degree, a doctorate degree, and they're going to pay you $6 an hour. You know?
Well, that's something.
You ask somebody that. Somebody else is similar to that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that for dishwashing, you know, that's what years experience. How long does it take you to train someone to wash dishes?
Well, that's the thing. But I appreciate you sharing. Anything else you want to share with us before we take the other call?
Yeah. I thought I was the only one on.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Another one of the. Oh God.
Oh, sorry to sort of put you off, but no. Well, once you recollect it, you know, I do apologize for that. You get that thought back and then you shut us back. All right.
Okay.
Sorry, sir. Thank you too. As we go to the other line, welcome. Good afternoon. You want to talk today? Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. How are you, my friend? How are you?
Okay, and to your guests.
Good afternoon.
Hello there.
Yeah, and exactly who are your guests doing?
We have the company of Rich Dyer and Saver Dyer, and as we're looking at statistics, I think they're more than willing and courageous to offer up their intellect and insight into the analysis of some of the perspective opinions that could come from all the data that has been collected. And Rich was part of a campaign recently, a survey. You may have heard it being affectionate term, the chicken elections, but the analysis being very scientific. Don't let the naming of it sort of throw us off, because there's some good data that could be very informative,
And their data is concerning what?
Rich?
So we did a study of the Cayman population, and we were looking at attitudes towards 6 key social issues in this survey. So we specifically asked people their view, whether they're in favor or not in favor of legalizing marijuana, of gay marriage, of
plastic.
Yeah, of a single-use plastic ban, and of private development, and
national healthcare and the iguana call.
So, nationalising healthcare and the iguana call. Thank you, sir. And then we just looked at what the differences were between the various population groups in their attitudes, where the similarities and differences were, and what it means. And then today we're kind of looking at a wider discussion on that of what other statistics are there around employment, and about what the projections for the future, right? What are the implications? And it's just a general discussion on that topic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so
and when you all collect all your information, what is your next step?
Well, we actually, on the chicken elections, this was something we conducted earlier this year with my company, Massive Media. And we actually produced all of the information into a report and into some charts, and it's actually available online. So you can view the charts. We've got some interactive charts where you can view some statistics, or we have a detailed report you can view online or download, and it's at chickenelections.com. So you can go there and you can see all of the data. We write out in detail the methodology, how we did this research, what the advantages were, what the weaknesses were, what parts of the data have more confidence and what have less. And then we go in detail about what the findings were. And very much in this one, it was you call it observational study, right? So there was no recommendation. So it wasn't us looking at it and saying, well, this is what it means, or people are like this, or this group's like this. And, all it was just looking at the information and observing what the information said. So it wasn't there wasn't any implications or recommendations on it. It was just, this is what the data is. And so now in this discussion, Sterling's brought us back on. So now what we're doing is we're having a discussion around what the implications could be. So it's just kind of conjecture and opinions, but we're now just discussing around this data, and we're just literally just doing a panel on what it means and what the future implications are, what the concerns are, what the advantages are, effectively.
So what are your thoughts?
So do you all go to the government with this information?
No, this is which grade?
We're a private company who conducted it, and I can tell you we did email it to all of the members of the Legislative Assembly. Being the busy people they are, I'm not sure if they would have had time to read it, but it was put into the public domain. We had people register while we were doing it to have a copy emailed to them, so we had hundreds of people who did that, so we emailed direct. And then we just kind of publicized through here and Cayman 27 and on social media. We publicized that the data was available and directed people to download it and to read it and to digest it.
Well, is this your first time in the Cayman Islands?
No, sir. I was naturalized this year. I've been here for 12 years.
Okay, and what do you see? What do you see is the problem with the Cayman Islands concerning when it comes to Caymanians being employed?
Well, as Rich mulls that over, what do you think the problem is? I mean, from your perspective, what do you see that as being?
Well, I see 80% of the job advertisements in the newspaper. I see 80% of them being for work permit holders.
You mean for renewals or seeking people from?
It could be renewals too.
Mm-hmm.
It could be renewals too.
So that's just your guess, or did you count it just to make sure there's, you put the confidence 80%, not 90%, not 50%?
Well, if I was a member of the Legislative Assembly, this is what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I would put in place. If there was an advertisement in the paper and a Caymanian was not hired, I would have a department in place that would go to that company, find out how many Caymanians putting an application to get that job, and to see if the Caymanian was qualified. And if the Caymanian was qualified and they were not given that job, and someone with a work permit was given that job, then I would put consequences in place for that.
Like what? What would your consequences be?
My consequences would be a fine or the license of the company could be taken away. And if they did continue to hire someone on a work permit when a Caymanian was able to be qualified to have that work, I would deny that work permit.
But I think, presumably through this new Workplace Opportunities Residence Cayman, the work WRC office that has been set up, there's going to be a sort of, my understanding, a clearing house. So all of the jobs that will be subject to the work permits going to be registered there. Maybe the advertising component could be shifted so that the companies, one, don't have to go to the expense to, whatever people say, make up other people's business. I mean, that money spent on advertising could be maybe spent to government coffers and come to the country directly. But two, if you're looking for a job because you're unemployed or you're thinking of a change, have a central clearinghouse that you can go to and officially, a government agency, looking it up and say, hey, here are jobs for, by category, people in accounting or that sort of sector, people who are looking for education, and having it broken down. Now, your point would be, well heeded if we could do it that way, so that it's registered and then we check it, and if someone improperly circumvents the system, that there is sufficient enforcement, fines, sanctions, penalties, and the like, to not only punish but hopefully deter that sort of behavior. But any other thoughts you want here?
Well, Dwayne, we know the immigration is to make money. That's what the immigration department is for, Dwayne.
But that's been changed now, right?
If we don't have enough Caymanians to take the work, then we hire people on work permit. But if we have a Caymanian who is qualified, who's capable of working, that Caymanian is supposed to get that job. But what is happening, people are taking advantage of the system, and the government, in a way, through the immigration department, collecting funds, is not going about it the right way in seeing that Caymanians who are qualified are getting this work. And Dwayne, I'll give you an example of how the government is being unfair to Caymanians. The Premier said, right, that he's concerned about Caymanians when it comes to pensions, because the 5% that the Caymanians are putting in and the 5% that the employers are putting in will not be enough for them when they retire. So he said he has great concern about that, right? And just say each Caymanian retires with $100,000 retirement, CI, and they collect $1,100 a month, which, Dwayne, is practically nothing to the expenses in Cayman. Just say $1,100 a month out of that $100,000. Do you know in 7 years that $100,000 will be finished?
If you spend all the capital, yeah.
Then, remember now, $1,100 a month is nothing, Dwayne.
Right.
Okay? So after that $100,000 a month after that $100,000 is finished, where do those individuals get money from? They have to go to the NAU, right?
And I think that's one of the things we talked about earlier, the cost of living, the distribution of wages, and the notion, and that's why this survey has been very instructive, you know.
Okay, listen to this now, Dwayne.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if this is such a big concern for the Premier and his government, why have they given away over $1 billion worth of concessions? Right, listen now. They've given away over $1 billion. You know what $1 billion is? You know how many millions of dollars that is? Okay. Why have they given away over $1 billion worth of concessions and continue to give away concessions? Not collecting 70% out of 100, you know. No, giving away 100% of concessions.
Mm-hmm.
And remember now, this money belongs to the people. Right now, if the government had collected this $1 billion worth of concessions that they are giving away, and they had put that in a pension fund, then, and in a bank, and collecting interest off this money, then they would be able to contribute something to these Caymanians after they retire. But listen to this now. I've mentioned this to Mr. Art Connor on his show, and he asked me if I was encouraging a welfare state, a welfare country, right? No, I'm not encouraging a welfare country, but I'm not encouraging the government to be giving away hundreds and billions of dollars to multi-millionaires and billionaires who don't have to worry about a pension. I don't think that's right. So if government really, truly cares about their people, Dwayne, why aren't they doing things the right way if they truly and really care about their people, like collecting concessions, putting it towards a pension fund, that our Caymanians, when they retire, government is able to contribute towards the pensions of the Caymanians? Because right now, government is not even contributing 1% towards any Caymanian's pension.
Right. Well, I'll tell you what, those are questions that perhaps comes down to when the electorate will be mobilized and decide how they would support the candidates. Respectfully, thanks for that contribution. And
you're welcome.
We'll talk to you very soon, all right? All right, we're just a little bit past the news. Callers on the line. Respectfully, let's take the news, come back to the callers, and continue our discussion. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
Community radio with a different appeal. The voice of the people. Security through adversity.
Stuck on you.
Radio for all time.
You're listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman.
Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
This month sees the launch of a new initiative for families of sick babies and children being evacuated to seek urgent medical care overseas. Evacuation kits will now be provided to parents or guardians of evacuees in order to provide practical help and support in their time of need. The kits were designed by Rich and Maya Lewis and are part of a collaboration with Break K. Chinese authorities have declared a red alert as a powerful typhoon heads towards the eastern coast. Typhoon Likima is currently battering Taiwan with winds of more than 120 miles per hour and is due to make landfall in China's Zhejiang province on Saturday. Emergency teams have been deployed to the region to guide relief work. And Malaysia has charged 17 former and current Goldman Sachs bankers, including Richard Nod, the most senior banker in London, over the corruption investigation at its state development fund, 1MDB. Attorney General Tommy Thomas said custodial sentences and criminal fines would be sought against those charged. Goldman helped to raise $6.5 billion through bond offerings for 1MDB. The bank said it would, quote, vigorously defend the charges. Those are your headlines. I'm Karsley Fuller.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio K-Man is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio K-Man.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. I'm very grateful always for our guests, and as Sarah Dyer and Rich Dyer joins us, and to the callers who share. Now, caller prior had some wonderful things to share that we could put in to play, but before we comment respectfully, let's join our other callers. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne, and good afternoon to your guest.
Good afternoon, sir. How are you today?
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm fine. I hope everybody's fine. I have some questions to your guest.
Mm-hmm.
And number one, every study like this, of course, it costs money. Can your guest tell me who pay for this study, the cost of this study?
Okay.
Oh, the cost of the study? That was paid for by my company, Massive Media. We're a marketing agency here, and we funded the cost of the study ourselves.
And why is that? Well, no, never mind. Go ahead.
No,
what else?
I just go into the second point.
Yeah.
You are talking about unemployment of Caymanians and all of that.
Well,
And
unemployment,
yourself-
yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And yourself have a company, right?
Yes.
Massive Media, correct?
So
Can you tell me how many Caymanians employed by Massive Media?
I'll leave it to you, but I don't see the point of that. I mean, let's look at the analysis, because honestly, if you have that study, right, my perspective of looking at that study, if that was commissioned by an entity or government, that would probably be an expensive study to engage. So let's look at the analysis, and let's beat up the people later. Let's look at the principles and the policies and leave the personalities to get on the political side. Any other question that's pertinent and relevant to the discussion of statistical analysis? Okay, not. Next caller. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Sterling.
Welcome back, sir. Welcome back.
Yeah, I remember what I was saying. It was the
Oh.
solution to all these problems.
Okay, there we go. We get rid of the politicians? Is that what you said? Sorry, no, that's not what you said. Go ahead before I make you lose your train of thought.
You got to hit these people where they hurt.
In the pocketbook?
And, double up put like 100%. January, we're going to have 100% raise in permits. And every year after that, you're going to go up by 50%.
Mm.
Now, there's some categories you got to leave out.
Right.
Anyone like housekeeper, maids, and
But why? No, but why? I mean, why do we leave out categories?
Because those are jobs right away that Caymanians can get if they want. A lot of them cannot afford what they're paying since they get those jobs.
I'm not sure we should leave it in a category, but I mean, that's just my view. Come on, tell me why. You got the solutions.
No, if you have a housemaid working for you, right, and you're paying $500 a year, right? Now you and your wife are working while they have to pay that lady, right? Now maybe you're already getting minimum wage, but you can't expect double your.
All right, but let me give you another one, right? Let me give you another one. So you hired somebody to work for you that you're paying $500 or $1,000 a week to work for, but you've gone out to work. You know, in order to hire that person, you've gone out to work now, and you're making $500 or $1,000 or maybe $1,200 or $1,500. So you're only making a few dollars more, and you're paying than what you're paying that person. How do you address that?
No, that's actually happening a lot around there.
Okay, so why is that happening? How do we address it?
Should not increase the permits on the lower or any permits, say more than $2,000.
Right.
Then we increase.
All right, MLA Chris Saunders, right? Let me ask you. MLA Chris Saunders has shared one time. No, but you see, but you saying something. Let's engage it. People don't want to talk. What do you want? Let's go. All right, next caller. Good afternoon. Welcome. You on Talk Today. Hello. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
All right, welcome back.
Dwayne, first, in your show, you shouldn't be objecting my questions because this is a free country.
It's not about free country, no. No, respectfully, let's talk about the issues. Let's not talk about the people. We spend too much. Let's leave the campaigning for when we get on the political stage, and even then, I don't want to hear him talking about what this one did and if it's not relevant. To that call in the one prior, due respect, but let's look at it. If I may, though, let me see. We like to find out people's business and know who's who and what's what. I really don't care sometimes. That doesn't make sense to me if the analysis isn't important, right? I looked at the study. I don't profess to understand any of it. It was intriguing, the part of... No, I shouldn't say that.
You do yourself a disservice, study.
No, I shouldn't say that. I don't... You know what? I understand some of it, and the more I look at it, the more informative it becomes. We're talking about counterintuitive and the expectation of the healthcare sector. We think the Americans would have had a perspective, given the system that they had, and the studies showed something different. Right. Yes. The people who were from, I guess, Europe and the socialist countries, you thought their perception would be this. The studies showed something different. Right. And there's a fair degree of confidence in the scientific approach of the study. That is what I'm intrigued by, the perception versus the reality. How does one measure up against the other? Anyway, we were talking to me earlier, and I think it's just unfortunate that we allow the level of vitriolic personal comments to take away from what could be. And when we should get into it, well, we don't. Anyway.
Gosh, I mean, we spoke to earlier, right, is that, in these issues, when we look at statistics, right, we're looking at humanity. And so when people are, either emotive or reactive to things, even though some things might be said which are, might not be true, or some things which might not be clear, there is real motivation there for why people are looking at things like that and why people are reacting in ways like that. So, you don't, I wouldn't ever dismiss anything that anybody's said there. It's more important when you're looking at these statistics, when we're looking at the population controls here, right? Take the example of the chap there who, when he started with the first caller, and was looking at the number of work permits and wanted to reduce them. And that was what we were saying earlier, it's the work permit rates. As there's more work permits, it correlates with lower unemployment of Caymanians, right? So it studied there, and it studied that thing. He said, but then, as you remember, as he talked on, he went on to pensions, and he talked about if you have $100,000 and you pay $1,100 a month, then that disappears over 7 years. And that was the thing we talked about earlier. It was like the issue is the cost of living. Where's the money? It's security. Those are the issues, which are the important ones. But it starts with too many work permits. But when you start describing, and as he described through what he was saying, it went down to the pensions issue, and there are people who cannot afford to live, and those are the real. That's the detail. That's the devil in the details there, right? That's the issue. Right, so you can shout at something, we can be emotional about something, but it comes from a real place, and there it was. And it's cost of living is hard, right? And one thing about that, right, when an economy grows, poorer people get poorer, right? So as cost of living goes up, and people at the top earn more, and they do more, and they can afford more, as that price of your shopping basket goes up, if your salary doesn't go up at the same pace, you are worse off. Right, so we can have full employment, we can have more people being employed, but if we have big inflation and we don't have rising salaries, then we have more people falling below the poverty line.
Right. With that, though, if I may ask, then, if you have the case where the price of the shopping basket, every trip to the supermarket, you're buying the same things, but it's costing more, your salary is still the same. Right. So you'll lobby and you're giving a salary increase, but prices go up, you're probably worse off. All right? So the cost of living. The comment earlier, Cayman is the most expensive place. We saw a survey. Don't know how valid the survey is, don't know. We do know from travel that if you went to Switzerland or to other places, New York or in other places, Cayman isn't any more expensive. Cayman compared to what they had, was it Bangalore or to some other places, the quality of living, the standard of living, the different thing. I mean, my little bicycle won't compare to the guy's Rolls Royce. They both will get us to point A to point B, but not in the same style. So how do we address that issue of cost of living to making sure there's more disposable income?
Golly gosh.
Yeah,
you wanted a good question.
Sarah, you go.
Thanks, yeah. It's a really big question, and it's a really, really difficult one to address. And on a very personal level, I got my CUC bill through, and I sort of as ever, when you get these things in, you go, oh God, really? But I looked, and my actual consumption was less than it was a few months ago. But then the amount I'm having to pay is more. And it was, maybe only $20 more. But still, it's like, okay, so I'm using less. I'm being conscientious about this, but it's costing me more. And it's not to the point, I'm very lucky. I could afford to pay it, but I could quite reasonably see being in a situation where it's like, oh, okay, actually, this means that I'm going to have to rethink, and maybe I don't buy this at the grocery store this week, and you have to reassess, and it becomes a very, very real problem. And I don't think there is an easy or obvious solution.
Right.
I mean, in order to you drive inflation by increasing wages, by increasing prices, right? And if you're looking at reducing cost of living, one of the ways you would look at it is what's driving costs, right? So you have to try and look at source of cost as much as you can. So fuel, for example, right? So fuel drives not only the cost of your fuel bill, running your car, running your business, right? Fuel is an underlying driver of cost across loads of part of the economy, right? So if you tackle cost of fuel, right? So we could talk about renewable energy, we could look at different efficiencies in the way that we power Cayman, right? So you can look at, that's one driver. And then you've got, certain drivers can be social costs, right? So healthcare, for example, right? So private healthcare, that is a necessity. That's a necessity of consumption. So you could regulate that. You could nationalize the healthcare system, and then you could have the government regulate and fix that cost, right? So that's another driver of a personal cost. You could do the same with heavily regulating lending rates. You could do it. You could restrict the amount landlords are allowed to increase rents, right? These are all the cost drivers. So if you're going to deal with the cost of living, you've got to look at the things. You can't go and just say, all right, milk, I'm taking $1 off that, so now everybody's $1 better off. That you can't deal with on pricing. You have to look at what is what are the concepts which drive all the costs of living in here, and it's very complicated to do, right? So you can't just say, all right, we'll be efficient with power and we'll go to renewable energy, right? That's 20 years of investment planning and uncertainty.
You have to rebuild the infrastructure for providing all of the new alternative energies.
You have to legislate an entire new societal system. And you have to convince
the people who are making money out of the current system that actually it's in their interests as well to change. And that's a big battle. Trying to convince someone who makes a lot of money out of the way things are now that we need to change.
Right. The government doesn't just have a switch. It's like, cool, all right, we've done this now. No, you have stakeholders and you have influential organizations and individuals as well, which might resist certain changes which would help the aggregate, but if it affects the pockets of the powerful, that can also make it much more difficult to do.
Well, so
it's very complicated.
But those who benefit from the status quo may want to advocate for it. We see recently the announcement from St. Kitts and Nevis of a new power grid, significantly large one to give them sufficient thing. But long term, so that's sort of policy and planning and thought, but the ethos of the greater good. The caller prior was asking about the idea of pensions and concessions and the note. Maybe as we were speaking, I was just thinking of what he said. If governments were not doing these things and that fund could be utilized for this, then that could be a shift. But then how do you balance, giving a concession in order to sort of promote more development with the social cost of that lost revenue? Hey, we don't have all the answers. That's tomorrow.
Exactly.
All right, there's a caller, I believe, and that's respectful. Go to another caller. Welcome, good afternoon. You're on Talk Today. Okay, to that caller. But I was asking, it seems sometimes that, and I said this earlier as a jest, we'll get information, whether it's a research survey, whether it's the data collected from the labor force survey or something else through the Economics and Statistics Office. Even when it's collected, collated, properly analyzed and presented in a timely way, so not 10 years later, but maybe 2 or 3 weeks, very, very timely after, some of us don't want to look at it. Oh, those are numbers. They're scary. Or we seem to be unwilling to look at them and ask questions. Is there, as an educator, and I love the IB curriculum, how do we get that sort of discussion? I mean, I try to have it with friends and family, and they thought, you like to watch paint dry, don't you? Yeah, probably do, right? But how do we get it so people can understand that these are real things and here's real information that is valuable if we are willing to at least have a look?
Well, I think with statistics, it's the same as with anything. You have to try and anchor it in something that is relatable to them, something that they can really point to and say, oh, yeah, actually, that does affect me directly. Things like the electricity bill. And you get people to do it. It's like, yeah, but look, here's how cost of living has actually increased and is impacting you directly every month when that bill comes in.
So I'm going to take this call, but I'll ask you about that in relation to regulators, but if I remember it. Let's go to the phones. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for calling.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is number one from the Bronx.
Afternoon, sir. How are you?
Afternoon, number one.
I'm listening to you. That's the best. I just come from the hospital, but I turn the radio on and I'm listening to you.
Thank you, sir. I pray all is well.
Well, I'll tell you when to find out.
All right.
I just want to ask a question. I don't know if this is the right question for this program, this topic you're talking about or not. But some years ago, if I'm not wrong, it was about 2 years ago, when the fuel went so high that they put on this fuel cost onto your electricity bill. Now, since the fuel has gone down, why hasn't that been taken off?
Well, it's a good place to ask the question. If we can answer it, at least it's been asked. Good question. Anybody want to jump into that? I mean, Richie, you're a Putney resident and soon to be a West Bale.
Indeed. I mean, that's the standard mechanism in private pricing, right? When you don't have a strict regulation which insists that the cost of a service or the cost of a good is related to pricing, prices go up but they don't come down again. That's just the inevitable drive of a profit motive where an organization just sees a way to make more additional profit on their service. And it's nothing more fancy than that. It is strictly an organization which sees they can make more money. And then once you've become accustomed to the price rise, if it was a completely equitable situation, they would bring it down for you. But it's not a situation. It's a situation where they will make as much money as they can realistically out of the market, where the supply meets the demand. And it's been proven at that point. So when their cost goes down, they receive more profit.
Okay, so when the cost of the fuel go down, they're making more profit and the poor people losing more.
Exactly that, yes.
Yes, but I said it all, you didn't do it.
Awesome. But thank you for saying that.
Fuel cost. Once the price is at regular, take it off. Leave the people alone.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you, sir.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Thank you. Sorry to start me so much.
No, you added value. Thank you, sir.
I just had to get in there. You behave yourself too.
I can't promise you that, but thank you for encouraging.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
All right, bye.
Good. But that column sort of goes into the point of what you were sharing in relation to regulating costs. So a government, through an agency or some policy, says, now some of us don't like price controls, that those ceilings or floors can create all sorts of disparities and improper things in a market economy. But if I could ask, though, with the utilities, whether it's water, whether it's the electricity, we have a regulator that's supposed to approve it. The regulator says, yes, you applied for X% and we've agreed it or we've adjusted. And as in the case of CUC, it's 1.something%. It's not significantly a lot. I think the last approval wasn't much. Your bill, according to their press release, should only increase by a very nominal sum if your bill is this. But yet, in reality, some of us would say, well, it may be a $50 increase, a $30 increase. In a dollar value, we feel it. In a percentage value, it may be a 10% increase or a 30% increase or whatever the case is. So when the regulator looks at something and the utility provider says, well, it's only a couple of cents, and the reality isn't, why is there that anomaly seemingly?
So on this subject, I think you can make quite easy decisions on what things should be regulated in that way, right? There are certain things in our life which are essentials, right? We must breathe air, we must drink water, and anything which we define as an essential, that thing should be regulated, in my view, in such a way where we all need to consume the electricity and the power that comes from CUC in this example. And so being that that's a living essential, that's something that should be regulated to ensure that it is delivered fairly and equitably, right? So I'm not talking about alcohol, I'm not talking about any of the other consumables and things we choose to consume. Funny how alcohol was the one example I came to. Can't think of anything else you choose. But anything which is an essential of living, that should be regulated. Now, as we increase an economy and as we grow and as we develop, this list of essentials grows, right? We talk about a reasonable standard of living. These days, in an economy like this, you would consider internet connection to be something which is is now an essential, right? It is fairly essential for you to be able to engage in daily life. There are certain things which are only available online. It's becoming an essential of our life, right? And so as we progress, this list of essentials increases. As things are added to that list of essentials, those things should be regulated to make sure they're equitable and they're delivered fairly to the population. That's an easy way of making sense. Now, one other point on this is, you're probably going to pick me up on this, Sarah, but the United Nations now, certain departments are starting to look at the happiness index instead of economic growth as being the best way to measure the standard of a company. Sorry, I'm just laughing because my chair is going. I'm sorry.
Shorter and shorter.
I'm desperately trying to make this serious point while I'm falling to the floor.
I'm sorry.
But all right, there is a point here. The
United Nations Happiness Index.
United Nations is starting to use the happiness index as a way of rating the development and the state of a company rather than growth, right? And so it ties in this point as well as at what point do we stop growth for growth's sake? At what point is increasing the size of an economy or growing, the rate of GDP? At what point is that meant to be the focus, or at what point do we look at happiness indexes? How many people can afford all of the essentials? What's the proportion of our country which all have a reasonable standard of living, right? And that kind of ties into where we look at pricing of these essentials, where we look at the price of power, and I think that's the way we should approach pricing of these things. And that also does something towards cost of living and standard of living.
Right. Now, you want to pick up on it, Sarah?
No. Really, I agree with what he's saying. It's about the quality of life as much as anything. And you do have to try to find that balance between economic growth and development. We don't want to stagnate, but at the same time, you can't grow if you're not taking the people along with you. And to me, that's a fundamental part of leading a country, leading a society, is to look after the people. You can't just be thinking about the bottom line financially. If everybody is not there with you, you're missing something or you're doing something wrong. You need to look after, particularly those least able to look after themselves. And I know we've mentioned pensions a lot, but there are sort of gaps in education. There are those who have disabilities, whether they're physical or mental, and you have to make sure that they have that same access to quality of life that those of us who are lucky enough not to fall into those at-risk categories can enjoy. And that really is the job of anyone who is in a position to be able to help out, but particularly those who are tasked with the responsibility of governing and leading a country, I think.
Right. So education, like healthcare. There's another caller. Let's take that one. Hey, thank you for sharing. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, Starling Dwayne. Good afternoon to your illustrious panel there.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
It's one thing we have to bear in mind, that this is a very, very different Cayman. The Cayman we speak about, tourist brochures and so forth. As Mr. Fleming say, I'm drawn back to those two beautiful paragraphs he wrote 62 years ago, April 6, 1957. We have quadrupled our population in the last 40 years, and over 40 years. No other country in the world has done that. So we have no one to use as an example, as to get a sort of basis for which to formulate our plan forward. And most people who come here in the last 20, 30 years didn't know exactly what was our economy. It was all about the seafaring life. That was the major thing 50 years ago and so forth before that. And the money from the seamen sending home, carrying the island, and so forth. We won't bother going into that because anyone can read that up and get a sort of grasp on it who are new to here. But when we talk about statistics, we have to take statistics, in age groups. I guess you have done all that. But then we have to go with another thing. Generational Caymanians and people who have no real connection with Caymanians, families or anything, but have now been made Caymanian in the last, say, 10, 15, 20 years, they would definitely think differently, even if they're the same age as someone 60, 70 years old, a generational Caymanian. They're going to think differently, very differently about many important aspects of our life, of our culture, our identity, and our history, and so forth. So, talking about pensions and all that, the pension system from the very beginning, I've said it's the wrong way to go. You don't put something mandatory, I repeat it, in the hands of the private sector. For 85% of the population, of the working population, work for the private sector. And that's mandatory, and it is in their hands to control it. And the worst of all is the health insurance. We have put that mandatorily in the hand of the private sector to control what you get, what is delivered to you as a service, what they are willing to pay for, and the rates at which you're subjected to. So there are the two things that we have to think about. With nationalized insurance plan or medical, it's like what England and all of Europe has, and Canada has it, and many, many countries in the Caribbean and in South America and Central America have that. It's paid by your taxes, because we're in that unique, very, very unique situation. We don't pay any direct income tax. So it's a very difficult task to run the country and get proper statistics on who has earned what and what they're charging for their products and so forth, and no corporate taxes. Of course, there are other countries without corporate taxes, a few in the financial world, not to deter the rich investors coming in, but they do have a direct income tax in place, that the people are paying a tax to the government on the salaries that they earn, whether they are managers, whether they are owners of businesses or whatever. So we have a difficulty here in trying to formulate a plan, who to use as an example and so forth, which country to use. We have borrowed financial situations and objectives from other countries, but they all have a direct income tax, and those are borrowed from, have corporate taxes and so forth. So we have to dig around that and insert our type of system into that. It's difficult, it's time consuming and obfuscated. But I just wondered if you took these things into consideration with all the on our basic. Also, we are a basically strictly conservative Christian country. We have always been that way. So it affects the way we think. Those of us, as I said again, generational. There are a lot of new people here who it doesn't really matter who's to. If they're earning enough big money, they couldn't be careless about whether we introduce gay marriages or it's mandated upon us, because I'm quite sure our elect representatives won't introduce it without being mandated to do so. I'm just using that as a reference, and other things. So, we have to get the opinions of those on what it is. So it's a difficult job to sort of extrapolate from that, just where we're at, just who thinks mostly about something or what. If we don't split it up into those categories and ask the questions relevant, am I speaking to a conservative Christian, or am I speaking to someone who doesn't care, or are we willing to put that down, or anyway, it doesn't. As I said, things will pan out eventually, because what will be must be. That's the sort of realistic way I look at life. But I just ask people to realize this is not the same Cayman we might see in tourist brochures, read about. We're calling iguanas. We might have to call something next. We don't know who it is or what it is. The bloodlust is on. And so forth.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, thank you very much for letting me ramble.
No, thank you too. Thanks.
Thank you.
And well, certainly extendation. I know you guys have work to do. I appreciate keeping my company. We'll get a better chair the next time. We'll send that one back to Rooster. We'll get a better
I'm growing quite fond of it now, actually.
If I invite you to share any thoughts, also actually consider an invite later on as your schedule allows. But this notion, as we look at growing our population and increasing our population, and some of the things that were sort of alluded to earlier and was shared, as a populace, whether politician or policymaker, whether as the the parent or the principal talking to the teachers in terms of instruction and social studies. Are we cognizant that the increased population could mean this, good, bad, or indifferent, and growing it with a pace and with a certain perspective, the social as well as the economic implications?
Yeah, I think to answer that, there's a lot of, when you do these kind of discussions, it's good to end optimistically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Look at reasons for hope. So there's some really positive outlooks, right? The economic growth here is astounding. There is a brain gain we're getting here, right? Having such a good economy attracts, illustrious and intellectual people. We gain good expertise and experience this island that has, tangible benefits to the island. There's a lot of long-term planned investment that we know about.
Mm-hmm.
There'll be more that we don't, both private and public. Government is operating on a budget surplus right now. That's an incredibly positive thing. There's lots of opportunities for entrepreneurs. So we have a lot of positive things. What we need to do is, there's two things I think which are important things to know. One, we have to learn how to debate better. What we've seen with the ongoing discussion around the development of the port, for example, or around gay marriage, which the caller just mentioned, there's this real habit which seems to be going worldwide where we're shouting at each other and no longer discussing together. So we need to learn how to debate things better and not be so tribal, and to be able to have realistic, truthful discussions, right? So that's something that's going to be really important for us to figure out better. And then the second thing is the thing that we've talked about is we have to be aware of growth is not the end goal. The goal is for lifting up as much of the population. And this happiness index the UN's looking at. So while we plow ahead with all this growth, we need to address healthcare and pensions and cost of living and the things which the everyday person is getting left behind in these places. That needs to be where our focus is while we do this growth, right? It shouldn't be how can we increase our dollar bills, how we increase our bottom line as much as possible. We now need to look at the effects of that and how we make this as equitable as we can for the population, how we look after the population and those most at risk or those most vulnerable.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Well, Rich stole most of what I was
I started reading your notes.
I know, we have the same bullet points here, and I took all the good ones.
You did. But no, I do agree. I think when we were talking about this before, and we quite often sit and have conversations along these lines, I do think one of the most important things is that we need to learn how to talk to each other again. And it is what Rich just said. We have got into this habit of, you have a different opinion from me, therefore we must argue about it. Mm-hmm. And one of the things when we were growing up, our family always had discussions around sort of politics and current affairs, and our parents had quite different views from each other, and we have different views from each other on quite a few things. But we learned how to have a civilized conversation about it and realize that you can disagree, but both still have best intent. Mm-hmm. And I think that we do need to relearn how to go into conversations and assume that everyone is there with good intent and everybody wants the best possible outcome. But for me personally, I think that outcome absolutely has to include looking after the most vulnerable and those who are not necessarily able to look out for themselves. Mm-hmm. And so when you think about your political platform, what you should be doing is looking for people who are going to look after the country and look after society and those who need help. And then you look after you and your family within that framework. Mm-hmm. But you need to make sure that the framework is there to support those who really need that support.
So if everybody does his or her best, then the best will be done by everybody. Something that you shared that I was going to ask, not a comment now, but just for us to think. You talk about the brain gain, bringing people here, and the knowledge-based industries. I fully embrace that. A concern that I have, and maybe as an educator I could share with you. Other educators have related parents, and thankfully, Radio Cayman has given me a wonderful opportunity. Students come through these doors all the time. I believe Radio Cayman is a wonderful example of trying to give young, whether they're in primary school, whether they're in their high school programs, an exposure to the media. I mean, it's just phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So you get to meet them, engage. Sadly, a lot of those Caymanian students are concerned about their futures. Will there be jobs for them? Will they have an opportunity to benefit from the economy? Mm-hmm. And so whether these are, the top performing students in your school, whether they're going to go into, one industry or the other, a lot of them are sharing they may not have a future, so they may be leaving the country. if we have the brain gain from those coming and the potential drain from those leaving, will those who come stay? Because why the ones left first was that no security, there was no stability, there was no sense of safety, no sense of community. It may take them a few years to get there. Maybe it'll be their children experiencing it, and that cycle continues. So back to your point, how do we get all of us to the table talking to each other, doing for the greater good, understanding that it's cost, like it or not, that drives. You pay your electric bill grumpily, begrudgingly, and maybe sometimes can't. So you can buy food, or are you paying your bills, and then you call up your friends and say, hey, we're going to have a little get together. I've cooked some food. We're going to play some games, and just like the good old Cayman, we were told, where people socialize and engage, and they got into conversations, and no more. We're working 24/7. Well, was that a social comment? Let me stop. Rich, thanks for your time.
Sterling, it's always a pleasure. Thanks for having me back. I really appreciate it.
And Miss Sarah, it was a pleasure. I trust that you'll have a wonderful, exciting and very rewarding school year, as all of our teachers and our students. If your class wants to come through the door and show me how it's done, let us know. All right, to our listeners, when we come back, pick us up. You know what? Let's engage. Let's talk a little bit about, the policies and the principles and the problems, and let's find solutions. And maybe if the personalities that we need to improve, well, let's see if that's the one in the mirror. Stay tuned for Talk Today.
For 51 years, Cayman Airways has been connecting the Cayman Islands with the world, welcoming visitors to our shores and taking residents to exciting destinations. To celebrate, Cayman Airways airfares are now on sale for travel this fall. Sale fares start from just $71 CI round trip. Taxes and fees are additional, conditions apply. But hurry, this anniversary sale ends August 10th. Call 949-2311, contact a travel agent, or visit CaymanAirways.com.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's eye exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Get half off a complete pair of glasses with any student's eye exam now until August 31st. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook, located in Caymanian Village.
Terms and conditions apply.
This is Caitlin Tyson, your reigning Miss Cayman Islands Universe, here to encourage you all to attend this year's pageant on Saturday, August 17th at the Ritz-Carlton Resort. It's going to be an amazing event. Tickets are on sale now at Sand Angels in Camana Bay and Funky Tangs in Georgetown. There's limited seating, so be sure to get yours soon. Thanks to our corporate sponsors, the Ministry and Department of Tourism, Cayman Airways, Hurley's Media, and Radio Cayman.
Do you have a business in the tourism industry? The Cayman Islands Department of Tourism wants you to get listed on their website. Visit CaymanIslands.com. It's absolutely free and will give your business added exposure on the #1 visited tourism site for the Cayman Islands. Learn more and get listed at www.visitCaymanIslands.com/sign up. That's www.visitCaymanIslands.com/sign up. Don't wait. Sign up today.
Remember to discard all fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, all foods in canisters, dented, leaking or rusting cans after they have come in contact with floodwater. Also discard foods that are stored in cardboard boxes, paper foil, cellophane, and cloth, as well as those in open containers and packages. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
Parents, do you know what time it is?
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
But it's not Christmas time. But school is nearly back in session. Is your child ready for the school year? Stop by Savannah Pharmacy in Countryside Shopping Village and pick up all of your child's stationery supplies. With 30% off selected items, you won't need to break the bank to get your little one prepared for the school year. You have enough to worry about. Make back to school a breeze with Savannah Pharmacy, located in Countryside Shopping Village, or call 946-3336.
There are plenty of reasons to be a Logic customer. There's lightning fast internet connectivity. There's the great overall customer experience. And now you can improve your Wi-Fi connectivity with Logic Boost Wi-Fi for free. With Boost, you can extend your freedom to stream, game, and download seamlessly anywhere in your home, like your patio or your underground lair if you have one. Sign up now for any Logic Bundle package and get free Boost Wi-Fi for a limited time. Visit logic.ky for details.
King Sports Center takes pride in being more than just an ordinary gymnasium. For 14 years, their multi-purpose facility has been providing the community with a variety of sporting, recreational, and relaxation activities. King Sports Center has a bowling alley, lounge bar, multi-purpose rooms, powerhouse gym, rock climbing wall, bungee jumping, a 10,000 square foot rink, and so much more. For more information on the variety of services, call their friendly staff today at 946-5464 or email kings@candw.ky or visit www.kingsportscenter.com. King Sports Center, your one-stop shop for fitness, recreation, and relaxation.
Excuse me, I noticed you from afar.
Really? Me?
Well, not you. The KFC sandwich you're eating?
Oh, Zinger.
Sorry, I'm not trying to be funny.
No, it's called the Zinger Sandwich. Crunchy, juicy, 100% chicken breast, crisp lettuce, sweet mayo on a seeded bun with a little zing. KFC's chicken is not factory breaded, frozen and refried like the Burger Boys. Customize your KFC Zinger and dip it in barbecue sauce.
Wow, now I'm starting to notice you too.
KFC, it's finger licking good.
The Miss Cayman Islands Universe Committee is inviting you to our pageant on 17th August, 7 p.m. at the Ritz-Carlton. The committee continues to empower young Caymanian ladies to become role models in the community. So come out and see our 6 beautiful contestants vie for the title of Miss Cayman Islands Universe. The winner will represent us at the Miss Universe pageant. Get your tickets today at Funky Tangs and Sand Angels.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back to Talk Today. Thank you for listening and sharing, and let's see if we can get into the meat of the matter as we invite you to be a part of our discussion. It's an open line, 949-837, 949-6990. Of course, Flo offers up a toll-free number, 1-800-534-8255. And there is the WhatsApp that is available to us as well, as I open it up, 925-3261. It's an open line, as I shared. We've got a couple of things to share with you on the WhatsApp as well. Let us start there. Any calls in the queue yet, Mr. Fox? All right, well, thank you for your listening. Let me read these sentiments from our messages. It says, vehicle insurance is mandatory, as is in the hands of the private providers. I think if Monday come on, I got probably wear my glasses. What do you think, Fox? Because I think my arms are getting too short. Let me reread that. So vehicle insurance is mandatory and is in the hands of private providers. Why is it so different with health insurance? Okay. So the jobs are here, but we do not do well at integrating newly educated, established Caymanians into our workforce. We are much better at integrating new Caymanians and even work permit holders into our workforce, often at the expense of Caymanians who have ticked all the boxes in their social contract, focus on school, avoid teenage pregnancy, complete university with good grades, stay away from drugs and crime, maintain a good attitude, and be ready to work. Yet many cannot even land an entry-level job in their field of study upon graduation. Why is this the case? Well, certainly want to ask you to respond to that, but let's go to our calls. Hey, welcome. Thank you. You're on Talk Today.
One love, Brother Sterling.
Yes, sir. Listen, nothing personal, and I was just thinking about it earlier. Yeah. I want us to start looking at policies, man. Yeah, but before you do, I want to apologize to you, but I want us to focus on principles and policies, and let's get into away from this vitriolic, divisive, emotive responses that really, we leave it to the politicians to debate. You know what I mean? Let's do the thing, man.
I'm just offering a suggestion because there's some other things going on with this job business. I think it was all last year. I asked Mr. Miller on the show one day. These jobs are not advertising where they are. That I get phone number. If I'm living East End, it's a job advertised that I feel I could fill in. Also with that Holiday Inn, 7 Mile Beach. I'm not even going to apply for it.
Because it'd be a challenge for you to get there with everything else, right?
Yeah, again.
Right.
It is the town and the West Bay, then but another mile down to Holiday Inn. They need to be putting the location of the business and a phone number where you can reach someone. And understand that that is in the law, but they're not doing it.
So we're not enforcing
it's not
it.
being enforced.
Right. Okay.
Right? Another thing is, I know several, and not a Kibani has heard of all about this, that they bring in a foreign national, and the Caymanians are training them to do the work, which is above them. Right? And I think these things should be reported to the Labour Office, and Labour Office should do something about take them out of the job, or at least just how to check for whether they can speak English, check if they really have those qualifications that they seem to have.
Right.
And the other thing is, what I was saying earlier, if you get the middle, everyone whose permit is above $3,000 a year, and start them off as a 50, 100% increase, they're going to look to get more Caymanians.
Right. Well, I was going to, let me interject. MLA Chris Saunders had once shared that when we're looking at the cost of work permits, we seem to charge that specialist, highly trained, skilled individual. He didn't use a number, but let's say a lot of money for that permit. But yet the jobs, like you're talking about, that maybe more of us could become trained and qualified, we charge them a little bit of money. Like your point, maybe switch it around. Maybe the person whose job requires less training and experience could be a higher permit than, say, the neurosurgeon.
We can't. We can't increase permits to those people simply because we do not have Caymanians that can fill those roles.
But we don't have Caymanians to fill a lot of the roles. If you look at the population distribution, there are not that many Caymanians in the workplace.
There's a lot of those upper higher class jobs. They said Caymanians making over $4,000 a month. How many Caymanians do you know making over $1,000 a week? This is ridiculous.
But why is it then that if the prosperity, if this economic boom that we have, if this level of wealth that is supposed to be in this country, why is it that it seemingly isn't that more of us are sharing in that? It would seem
they are not hiring the people who want to hire their own people. Americans trying to hire friends from America. Filipinos trying to recommend their friends to the Philippines. Jamaicans trying to bring in their friends from Jamaica.
Okay.
It is a natural cycle of human thing.
Right.
It is for the government to look into it and say, look, you have six people employed, only 10 of them Caymanians.
Right.
If you do not give us a good reason, next year we're not going to give you any more permits.
Okay. But let me ask a question, right? Sorry, let me interject. Let me ask a question. Two things, right? First, the company, as we understand it, right, is in need of X people. Can't find it because, one, they say they're not the qualified, experienced people available locally, so they're going to bring the people in, whether it's their friends, family, or countrymen, right? But they justify that they can't find, whatever the reason. Or two, right, we understand that just share, and there may be someone here who has the skill sets and experience and is willing to leave job A, the employer that they're at, to take up the offer that has now become available and on the table from job or employer B.
Yeah, answer that, Mr. Sterling, you see.
Uh-huh.
I've had that problem. I've known several places. One that was the government, where anyone that applied for a job that was not of a certain nationality was thrown into the 513. Only certain nationalities, those applications went forward. Right? And the only way I see around that is for all jobs to pass through the Labour Office. So if I want a job as an accountant, I send my resume into the Labour Office, right? Or send a copy to the company. So they cannot say they did not receive my application. And then they write back to the Labour Office why I am rejected, right? And then when they put in for the permit, those letters and the reason for not employing them will go before the immigration board so they can get a good picture of what's going on.
Right. But the question I was going to ask you then, if that person who is now, right, so on one hand, they're saying that they have to bring in somebody from elsewhere because they're not body here that has the skill or the experience. Or B, if there is someone, it means that person is going to leave one job to go to another. So that employer now is without that employee and will have to now take out a work permit. So with that in mind, given that the population, the size of our population, the Caymanian population, isn't sufficient to cope with this increased demand for labor, why are we allowing the expansion if it's not going to benefit the Caymanian community? Is it because, what's your view on that?
No, this has been going on. Oh, this hotel go build so many jobs for Caymanians. This port go build so many jobs for Caymanians. And then it get built, 10% of them maybe are Caymanians.
Right.
And lower positions.
But with that being...
the rest of them, higher positions are foreign nationals.
Right. So with that being a reality, if we know that whether it's the ice cream shop that's opening in the retail shop or whether it's the new hotel or whatever that is, that new business that it opens or expands means that we're bringing people in to staff it, to live in it, to whatever. Why are we doing that if we know that we don't have the demand? There's no need because there isn't the people to work there.
Because it's so much of a strain on infrastructure, and government needs money, so they want to give concessions to the people come in, or they can employ so many people, and the more people they employ, the more money government is getting for work permits,
yes, sir.
Without realizing the big strain it is on the island with the roads and schools and hospitals and everything else.
Okay.
They're not really thinking well,
So what do we do? All right, well, I hear you. Anything else? Because I don't want to cut you again.
No, that...
okay. Okay. Yes, sir.
One old lady, husband and mom were going in the ground. He sent, so he put his hand on the shoulder and proposition there. She take his hand off, say, okay, that's enough for now. We'll get some more next time. Okay, that's enough for now.
Yes, sir. Next time. Thank you. And with that, we'll pause. We'll take our news headlines. When we come back, there'll be more open line.
Know the signs of a faulty septic system. Sinks and/or toilets that drain slowly, floor drains that overflow, or sewage that is visible outside your home are all signs that your on-site wastewater treatment system is not working properly. If your septic system is faulty, now is the time to fix it to prevent further damage in the event of a storm. For more useful hurricane preparedness tips, visit the Water Authority's website at www.waterauthority.ky or follow us on social media.
From happy beginnings to happy ever after.
Brit K protects your lifestyle with the best insurance cover at the best possible price.
Health insurance with far-reaching benefits.
95% of claims settled in 5 days.
Low-cost life insurance.
And investments.
Security in retirement.
With a custodian pension plan.
For happy beginnings and a happy ever after.
Visit BritK.ky or call 949-8699.
Brit K, where people come first.
Hello, Cayman. I am Mariah Tibbetts, contestant number 3, representing the majestic district of Bodin Town. When I lived in Cayman Brac, I learned how to fish using soldier crabs as bait. I love spending time with my family, especially my 2-year-old nephew who calls me Yaya. Some of my favorite places I've traveled to are Amsterdam and New York, and I can't wait to add more to my list soon. The color pink describes my personality well because I'm a girly girl, I like to be romantic, and I consider myself to be a sweet person. I hope to see all of you at the Ritz on August 17th, where we will crown the new Miss Cayman Islands Universe. See you there!
The Tuesday and Thursday edition of The Business Buzz is brought to you by Cayman Medical Supplies, providing quality pharmaceuticals, medical supplies, and consumer products to healthcare providers, retailers, and ultimately the patients at a reasonable rate in a friendly, caring, and timely manner. Cayman Medical Supplies is located at number 93 Smith Road, Windward Center. Telephone 949-6211.
Headlines.
With the latest headlines.
All the news when you want it. Tune in to Radio Cayman for hourly headlines of the day's top stories.
One of Cayman's bright and shining young stars.
Local, regional, international.
Turning to international news.
Updates on the hour between 7 a.m. and 6 p.m. on weekdays. Radio Cayman News.
Headlines.
Your voice, your choice for today's biggest news.
You are listening to Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
Radio Cayman. Radio Cayman's newsroom. These are the biggest stories right now.
Brett Fraser has made it into the final B for the men's 50-meter freestyle with a time of 22.74, a season best time. Brett just missed qualifying for the final A by 0.04 seconds. Lauren Hugh was unable to qualify into the finals for the women's 50-meter freestyle with a time of 27.13, and Jessie Jackson will not be in today's medaling race for the laser standard of sailing. Good afternoon, I'm Dion Anglin with your headlines and news elsewhere. Nearly 1 million people have been affected by a major power cut across large areas of England and Wales, affecting homes and transport networks. National Grid said it was caused by issues with 2 power generators, but the problem was not resolved. Blackouts were reported across the southeast, southwest, and northeast of England, the Midlands, and Wales. U.S. President Donald Trump says serious discussions are taking place between congressional leaders on meaningful background checks for gun owners following 2 mass shootings. On Twitter, Mr. Trump also said he had spoken to the gun lobby group National Rifle Association so their views can be represented and respected. The NRA opposes extensive checks. And a Cambodian man has been rescued after being trapped in a cave for 4 days while collecting bat droppings. Sambora slipped between 2 rocks on Sunday while trying to retrieve his torch. The 28-year-old, left without food or water, was found on Tuesday after his family began looking for him. He was retrieved after a 10-hour operation involving 200 rescuers and is being treated at a local hospital. That's a wrap of your headlines. I'm Dion Anglin.
Radio Cayman, the voice of the Cayman Islands.
What's happening in your community? News and information, music, and more. You can find us. www.radiocayman.gov.ky. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Radio Cayman is your choice, your voice for today's biggest news. Radio Cayman.
Talk today. But I do have some questions. Talk today.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program.
Talk today.
Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon. Welcome back. I thought it was Friday. Let's see what the calendar says. It's open line, though, as we invite you to call and share your thoughts with us. Hey, good afternoon. Welcome. You're on Talk Today.
Good afternoon, Dwayne.
Okay, welcome back, Amjad. How are you, man? And listen, as you go on, I must share with you the level of frustration sometimes with us not engaging in a dialogue, but seemingly getting vitriolic. So, as they say, one love, but no offense. But let's see, man, that insight that you have.
Yeah. In the boss call I made, your guest coming to sell us propaganda about increase of, and this is not my subject why I call now, the increase of work permit will increase employment of Caymanians.
Right. No. What before you go, and I want you to get to the subject. It wasn't a propaganda. Remember what they're saying, that if you look at the statistics, it doesn't sound like that would make sense. But then the numbers were. And I don't want to defend them. I just want it to be an accurate reflection of what they shared. That when you see the work permit numbers go up, you see employment going up as well. Now, they did share that if a person is unemployed, a Caymanian person unemployed, that person is concerned about finding a job, right? So it wasn't the issue of propaganda. It was an issue of here is some information, and because it was scientific, right, we could put some credence in the collection, in the analysis, and now what we need to do is be willing to discuss it, critique it, and say, well, you said this, but really, and pull it apart, because it might be helpful.
Yeah, Dwayne, I do my research before I make any call. First, your guests have a company employs 0 Caymanians. So it don't make sense
but
to
Amjad,
listen to any...
Amjad, how many people in this country are working in organizations where there are little or no Caymanians? Maybe even in sections of government or other authorities, in the legal community or financial services. We understand that. Let's address it. And if there's an issue why there aren't Caymanians or a significant number of Caymanians in a particular company or in a particular sector, let's arrange that we, one, understand it and make the necessary adjustments to address it.
Yeah, Dwayne, anyway, my subject is very concerning. It's the abuse of children in Cayman.
Yep.
The sexual abuse of children is an increase. And every time I wonder why the Department of Children in the police force and the Department of Children in government, Family and Children Department, they don't take no action. We hear about the broken story of the child of a real estate who get drunk, almost sent to the hospital, and all of this, and no charges being brought to the father and mother because the influence of those people or their connections or whatever. And then today, yesterday, we hear the breaking of story of the rape of one child who in Bodentown, and the story says that there is one politician who paid from his credit card.
Right. No, that's Amjad.
I don't want to say,
no, but it doesn't matter if you say the name of, what I'm saying is less, because it is, you are right. It is an issue that we need to address in relation to the things that happen in our society, especially to our young people. But the allegations of such, let's speak to the substantive issue and try to avoid the conjecture.
Yes.
Okay.
So, where is the police? The Commissioner of Police, I'm very sure, gets briefing every morning in report what is happening in the media, in the country, and the responsibility of the Commissioner of Police is to launch an investigation. And the second thing, where is this governor of this island? Maybe he busy in other stuff, but the responsibility of the governor of this island, the protection of the children of this country, as he responsible about the protection of the people of this country.
Right. Now, let me just ask, not just you, but just ask a question. What if, again, just a question, what if in our constitutional development and advancement that we're gradually moving to a system where the governor, right, that office of the governor is less and less involved in the administration of the country, and that's left to the politically elected people and their appointed people, because at some point we're either looking for independence or more autonomy or a greater sense of accountability, so that the role of the governor, that office of the governor, becomes less administrative, more ceremonial, and not the hands-on. So what if that is the conditioning, the little things that we're being asked to get accustomed to, so that the governor no longer takes a direct role in what's happening in the day-to-day things in the country, no matter how serious, significant, or egregious they may be. That's for the people here to deal with through their people that they've elected and appointed.
You see, Dwayne, the problem is that we have two departments in this country responsible about children, protecting the children in this country. And every time the breaking in the news that there is a child being abused, and you hear nothing, no charges being brought, that is a very concerning. So every parent have a child in this country that his child is not protected by the police, by Department of Children, and those people sitting there not doing nothing, and the Commissioner of Police of this country who promised this country that he will do a better job than the one before him, and the same thing, the responsibility of the governor of this country to protect the people of this country. I don't know what he busy in partying.
But let me ask, respectful, let me ask. So let's use the office of the governor. It's through that office. How do you think the governor, the person of the governor, and the office of the governor, how is that going to offer any protection or security to the people of this country? I mean, is he going to stand watch by your door? Is he going to patrol the streets? I mean, what is it that you expect that person in that office to do to protect the country?
The first action, Dwayne, the governor, when I'm very sure he reads and know what's happening in the country, because a report every morning comes to the governor as it is come to the commissioner of police.
Right, okay, go ahead.
He hear about this story about the rape of the child in Bodin Town. Why the governor don't ask the commissioner of police immediately to launch a proper police investigation? What is the truth?
But how do you know that hasn't happened? How do you know that? So that's what I'm asking you. What is it that you want the governor, right, to do when something happens? Are you asking that it be a subjective thing that the governor says anytime somebody runs a stoplight or anytime somebody shoots somebody or it's a rape, then this is what you do? Or is all every morning when he gets a report of anything that happens, what is it that you want the governor to do? And why is it the governor? Why not the premier? Why not the deputy governor? Why not the chief officer? Why not the medical director? Why not the talk show host? I mean, what is it that, and why are we waiting for those people? What is it about them that they have this great power? Why are we not protecting our own and looking out for each other?
Yeah, because, Dwayne, there is a political cover-up in a lot of issues happen to children in this country. And the governor needs to take his role to stop this cover-up and this protecting of...
Okay, so what is it and how do you want the governor to do that? What is it? I mean, be specific.
I need him to launch an investigation in the drinking of a child, the one who get drunk and his parents get away. And number two, he needs Commissioner of Police to launch investigation. If the criminal, whoever he is, needs to be charged and need to protect the children of this country.
You're right. So you're saying that you would like, once there's a governor and anybody occupying office, to be more hands-on and to look out for the protection. Make sure that the commissioner directs his officers and whoever the agency is. That's what you want.
Yeah, and the second thing, Dwayne, the Department of Children and Police, where they are, the Department of Children and Family Government, what they are doing when a child being raped and no police investigation, no action from the Department of Children.
If I may ask, right, in a community, so you're living next door, so you're neighbors, we're working with people, so the Cayman Islands as a whole, in our community, what would you ask of us who live and work here, all of us who are resident here? Is there something that we can be doing that would make it safer for all of us? And if so, what? I mean, where is our role in this as a society?
Yeah, Dwayne, the problem is in this society, people are scared to speak. And when somebody speaks, you find people who bash you, who
Okay, I'm going to actually just cut you for a second. So we're afraid to speak. So the governor tells the commissioner, he doesn't ask, he directs. He said, listen, Mr. Commissioner, you go and you do this thing, next thing, I want an investigation. The commissioner summons his officers and they go out, but nobody wants to talk to them. They can't get any information, whatever that thing is. What then? How do we get to the point where we're holding people accountable? Because that's what you're saying, right?
Right.
So how do we get there?
When people need, especially in the issue of a child, this is everyone in this country have a child.
I'm agreeing with you. We need to protect our people, but I'm asking you, what is it that we can do as a country, as the people that live here, to make sure it's a safe, secure, stable, healthy, wonderful place?
Number one, Dwayne, we need to make a new legislation that if somebody rape a child, he needs to get life in jail.
Why life? Why not we say that if you commit this offense, whatever that is, right, that it's not life, we take you in the center of town and we hang you. I mean, they did it in,
I wish they hang some criminals in this country.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, so go ahead.
Because Dwayne, it is very painful to a child to be in that situation. And I tell you, when I used to live in Jamaica, I used to volunteer with different organizations, and I see how those children feel. And today, I'm calling in the commissioner of police. I am calling in the governor of this country. If they don't take action, they are part of the crime, and they are involved in covering for whoever, politician, whoever he is, they are covering. I am calling in investigation in what happened in Bodden Town.
But again, what I'm saying to you, right, that's the police. But in a society, whatever the act, if it's something horrible that happens, isn't it for us who live in a society with information about what happens to get involved and not be afraid? So somebody comes in by a Jamaica canoe bringing drugs and guns and smuggling people. Do we turn a blind eye because for whatever reason, maybe the person is, illegally selling something out of the back of their car trunk? Do we say, oh, well, they're not really hurting anybody, but they're breaking a law? I mean, at what point are we going to allow law breaking to continue? Is it when it gets to be very serious, and that defines, depends on who it is?
Yeah, when unfortunately politics in Cayman, politicians help and try protect some. I'm not saying everybody.
Again, respectfully, that's probably not just in Cayman. That might be in everywhere. That might be in
everywhere. Yes.
So
I'm not saying just in Cayman. We are speaking about what happened in here. Is unfortunately this is a crime. Whoever cover in a crime is a criminal and need to be charged. And I'm asking the Commissioner of Police, the Department of Children, whoever involved in government in protection of a child, to proper investigate this.
Right.
And we will not, I am telling you, we will not stop.
But can I
about this?
Yeah, let me ask this though. I mean, and I know that some things that happen in our society inflame even the most peaceful and perhaps some of the calmest of us. But some things are just too much. But with the greatest respect to all of us, maybe we will not be afraid to come forward to share when we know something has happened, whatever that thing is. If it's not right, our society won't improve if we let evil and wrong continue. But secondly, when we're making comments, that we be careful that we don't make the situation worse, that we don't put false information, whether we're being malicious or whether we just think we're being helpful. In a sense, be responsible in our commentary, not just to respect the situation and the sensibilities of people, but to make sure that justice can be served. Now, how do we do that? How do we make sure that we get to that point?
You see, Dwayne, look, I don't say names.
No. I'm not saying just you, right? Or whether you say a name.
I'm not saying, look, I am not accusing anyone. I am saying there is a news
right
come out in social media, in WhatsApp, and everywhere. Pictures circulate.
Right. Okay.
And involvement of a politician in something.
Right.
Maybe he not involved. Maybe he's.
But that's what I'm saying. If we're not careful.
That is why I saying the best thing, a proper police investigation. And if there is no police investigation, that means the commissioner of police trying to cover something criminal happened.
But you can't draw that inference like that. That's what I'm saying. I mean.
Yeah, because if he don't launch investigation, he is covering up this issue.
All right. Well, listen, I would ask as a people that we stop allowing some of the things that are transpiring in our society to continue. And it could be, in our minds, very simple. You look at the way we operate the cars on our roads. We don't drive with a license. We don't drive with insurance. And some of us, whether we're in a position of authority, whether that is a police officer or a parent, we allow it to happen. Sometimes it's just the behavior in certain circles. But again, if the society is willing to accept certain things, what the old saying is, you spit in the sky, you fall in your face. Well, let's pause and take a break. When we come back, we'll talk today.
Hey, are those new glasses on Will?
Yeah, we went to Optical Outlook. Wham, bam, easy exam. Finally, an exam he could pass. And we had the glasses the next day. Easiest part of our back-to-school shopping for sure.
Book your child's eye exam today at Optical Outlook. Call 746-2020. Get half off a complete pair of glasses with any student's eye exam now until August 31st. Come see the difference with Optical Outlook. Located in Caymanian Village.
Terms and conditions apply.
Gym tonight?
I have another test today.
Wow, for somebody who isn't in school, you've had a lot of tests this week.
Well, Vamp Motors is giving out fresh baked cookies to customers who test drive SUVs this month. And since I haven't decided what to buy, I'm just test driving each one to see what I like best.
You better test drive that to the gym and back, especially with all those free cookies you're getting from Vamp.
Take a test drive for a sweet surprise this August at Vamp Motors. Test drive any SUV and receive a freshly baked cookie. It's our way of saying thanks for dropping by to check out our huge sale on every SUV in stock. Save up to $4,400 during Vamp's summer SUV sale. Now through the end of August. That's every SUV in stock on sale. Save up to $4,400 or put the savings towards upgrading your vehicle. Sweeten the deal with Vamp Motors, Walkers Road.
Support our port, support our tourism.
The cruise berthing facility is able to be built within the anticipated budget and by a partnership that includes a Caymanian company, one of our own. This is a win for Cayman.
Looking forward, looking bright. Support our port, support our tourism.
Did you know that once properly sanitized, some tinned food items may still be safe for consumption after coming in contact with floodwater? In order to properly sanitize these tins, always remove labels, and then wash tins in a strong detergent solution using a brush to get rid of excess impurities. Tins must then be immersed in a solution made of 2 tablespoons of chlorine bleach per gallon of water for 10 minutes. Ensure that containers are air-dried before opening. For more post-hurricane food safety tips, visit the DEH website at deh.gov.ky.
The Breeze Fusion is back Saturday, November 2nd.
Bigger and better.
Now featuring a 5K walk run
and a 10K run for half marathon trainers.
Join the fun and help raise funds for the Central Scranton Park and the NCVO. Save the date or register now at CaymanActive.com or at Radio Cayman Studios. Registration is only $15 if registered by September 30th. And all early registrants enter to win a Cayman Airways voucher.
The Breeze Fusion 5K, 10K walk run.
Saturday, November 2nd.
Talk today. But I do have some questions.
Cayman Islands' foremost listeners participation program. Because there are more questions than answers.
What the public is saying.
Waiting to take your calls right now. Sterling Dwayne Ebanks.
Hey, good afternoon and welcome back to Talk Today. Thanks for joining us. Got a couple of calls. Let's go to the phones. Welcome. You're on Talk Today. Hello, good afternoon. All right. Was there, not there. Kind of like playing peekaboo. 949-837, 949-6990. It's open line. A few minutes left. Let's, got a WhatsApp voice note. Why not do that now? Yes, Mr. Fox, you're in charge.
Wish my Uncle Crosby, John Crosby Walton, a happy 84th birthday. You know he's a legend in Georgetown and all over Grand Cayman and Cayman Brac for that fact. And unfortunately, I'm not there to spend a happy birthday with him, but I want to wish him the best birthday of his life today. Happy 84th, Uncle Crosby. And I wish and pray that God gives you many, 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 many more years here on earth with us as we can share the memories together. So thank you, Dwayne, for allowing me this opportunity. And Uncle Crosby, one more time, happy 84th birthday. Love you. Bye.
Hey, sometimes, positive things, man. So, happy birthday as well from staff here at Radio Cayman. 84 is a good number. All right, 949-837, 949-6990. Here's a WhatsApp. It says, I suggest that if a referendum is called on the cruise port development, there could be other questions as well. For example, should same-sex marriages be allowed contrary to Cayman's heritage? Should the population of the islands ever exceed a ratio of 50% in favor of indigenous or born or descendant Caymanians? Should a national lottery or casinos be allowed? Should buildings exceed a maximum of 20 stories in his zone? And, I must share, these are just some of the questions that this particular message related to, but there were others who were asking the same thing. If we were to go to the, expense of having a referendum in order to seek the public's opinion, should we just limit it to the cruise port now? In this instance, some would say yes, for sure. Let's not confuse the issue. Let's just do it. But to the wider picture, should we not have referendum questions, even if they were just instructive, whether they were binding or not? Maybe, as a few have shared, we have a general election. We're going to go over here. Hey, while you're here, take an extra second, 5 minutes, what have you, and give us your opinion on these things. Maybe there'll be 5 things, 10 things. Maybe there'll only be 2 things. And we can get a feedback. If there's a referendum, could we not have, similar exercise? Now, with this particular issue, some would say, well, it's probably too important not, to only have it as that single question on that single issue. But certainly, some of us may not necessarily ascribe to that. Let's take one final call. Hey, welcome. Good afternoon. You're on Talk Today.
Am I on now?
You are. Were you on just now?
Oh, I didn't know I was talking, so I thought I was talking. No, I was just saying about prophets. No, there's 3 prophets that I admire: Jesus Christ, Nostradamus, and Edgar Cayce. Am I on?
Yeah, well, only one of them really have any value, but anyway. I say only the first one has any value.
Oh, no. If you read them, Mr. Sterling, you read they all have a lot of value, just some are more recent. I mean, if you go back 2,000-3,000 years, Abraham and all them, and you cannot believe what Edgar Cayce did. That he was sleeping.
He will flash. So, listen, me and you not going to argue about him today. If you want to talk about something else, I don't want to hear about Edward Cayce.
I'm not arguing about this.
So, tell me something else.
I'm just suggesting that study up on those 3.
Yeah, Nostradamus, I'll accept you.
That's very vital.
Yeah. Cayce, he can continue sleeping. Anything else? Well, listen to me. Any man that you cut the bleed is human in flesh. Not much. So, what else?
Get your soul right with God, because the end is here.
No. That's what I'm saying. You, God is in Jesus. That's one thing. But Cayce, no. Listen. Don't waste time talking foolishness about that. But talk about beware of false profits and all that nonsense. No? 949-837. Please use that when you can, and certainly please access the toll-free line when you want and able to. 949-837 or flow toll-free at 1-800-534-8255. Mr. Art will be with us come Monday morning for the record. And then, of course, if you can join us for Talk Today or after the midday news and midday meditation, our Department of Children and Family Services, as we talk about International Youth Day, I'll be your guest and a chance to engage them then. And I'm hoping that the president of the Cayman Islands Seafarers Association, Mr. Denison Tibbetts, will be able to join us Monday at 1:30 to be able to not only share a few things but extend an invitation to the seafarers in particular. And we don't want to preempt what he's going to share, but would like you to be a part of it. And for those who are offended, I will apologize and don't want to qualify it so they say, well, you apologize, but it wasn't me to apologize. But Edward Casey and anybody else, you can be up in their arms and, I don't know, enamored with them, but they're just people and probably not really much to them. So if you want, look for scriptural references and spiritual nourishment. Hey, nothing wrong with being right. Probably the error is not. But who am I to tell you? Until Monday, I invite you to have a wonderful, safe, productive, and engaged weekend. Remember that a lot in this community are suffering and feeling the pinch and the punch of the cost of living. Others are actually more concerned with their, other goings on and having a lot more to deal with given all that has been transpiring recently here, but equally turn on the news and see what's happening elsewhere. So the world may, as the caller just alluded to, go into hell in a handbasket, but then we as the humans are the ones who are at the helm. So what are we doing to make it better? We can blame the politicians, probably deserve it, but if we're not standing up to help them and they're going their path, doing what they think is best, how can they be only and solely at fault? What role do we have to play? And if we're more interested in the material, in the financial wealth, and not with the other good stuff that are important, again, which one are we trying to change? The man in the mirror or the person we're pointing the fingers at? Until Monday, be blessed.